All right, this is the what's called the chitat, the Torah portion of today. Every day has a different portion that we can read. There's 7 people that are called up to read from the Torah on Shabbat, and you can also use every portion, allocate every portion for a different day of the week. So today is the second day of the week, and this is the second reading. Really, the reading begins a little bit earlier. Let's see where this is. There it is. Here. It begins really one thing before this. Here, let's go. Ah. All right, so we should start off from the Yud Lamed Aleph. Here we go. This is today's, what we call chitas. This is the today's Torah portion. All right, I'm sure you remember the last time we left Yosef and his brothers in a very tense situation. Yosef was the king of Egypt, and the whole world was in famine. There wasn't any food, and Yosef, as the king of Egypt, he became virtually the king of Egypt because he gave this advice to Paro to save up food because there was going to be a famine in 7 years. So 7 years Paro saved up food, and sure enough, the famine set in. And as soon as Yosef gave this advice, as Paro said, "You're the greatest, you're the wisest. Never seen anybody like you. If it wasn't for you, the whole world would be destroyed. Certainly Egypt would be destroyed. You are now the unofficial king of the de facto king of Egypt." So that was Yosef. Meanwhile, his brothers, who 22 years earlier had thrown him into a pit to kill him, and they took him out of the pit, and they sold him to the Egyptians. So now the brothers, 22 years have passed, his brothers come because they're hungry. Nobody has any food, and they come to Egypt, and Yosef immediately recognizes them, and they don't recognize him. So they don't know this is their brother. So Yosef really drives them crazy. He says, "You're a bunch of spies. You have to go back and bring your little brother, Benjamin." And they go back and they bring the little brother. And he said, "I was just sort of kidding, here, take all your food." And then he take all the food, everything you want. And they leave. And suddenly someone comes running after them and says, "Hey, one of you stole the cup." "Oh, Yosef, cup? We don't know anything about a cup." So they bring them all back, and sure enough, there is the cup in the sack of Benjamin, which that's bad enough. But the even worse part of it is the Benjamin is the only remaining son from Rachel, who was their father, Yaakov's favorite wife. And he was so now they're standing, and Yosef says, "I'm going to take Benjamin. You can go back home. I'm taking Benjamin, and I'm holding him by me. He's going to be my prisoner forever for stealing my cup." So Yosef, that's where this week's Torah portion begins. Yosef, the Yehuda, comes to Yosef by Yigash. He approaches Yosef, and he says, "Listen, please have mercy on us." And he starts begging, "If you do this, if you take this younger brother, my father's heart is going to break. He's going to die. It's going to be terrible." And now they're continuing. Oh, very good. Shalom Hershel. And Yehuda is now continuing his plea. And he's saying, "Listen, my father is old. He's weak. He's frail. He loves this young boy, Benjamin. And when my father sees Einanar, that the child is not there, Vamate, and he will die." Who will die? Our father. Rashi says, "Our father will die from pain, broken heart. V'yarido avdecha et sevat avdecha avinu, and if so, your servants have brought, in others, we will have taken our father biyagon in mourning Sha'ola to the grave. Sha'ola means to the grave. It also means right to the grave. Sha'ola. The Malbim also has interesting commentary. This is like this: when we go to our father and he sees that the child is not there and he's dead, what does it mean? The boy is not with us. This is, in parentheses, it means that even if the child is not with us, he's just by his father. Says even when Benjamin was by his father, his soul was still attached to him. In other words, our father had a special, deep love for him. How much more so is going to be revealed, this love, when you separate from him? So therefore, when he sees that the child is not with us, he's going to die immediately. And maybe you can say, says the Malbin, how does your father going to know Benjamin is dead? Why is he going to think he's assumed he's dead? Maybe just assume that Benjamin wanted to stay a little longer. A low Talmar, you can say, low to supper, you can tell him that he's still alive, but he's just by the king of Egypt. Right? What's wrong with that? Why is your father going to die from that? That's what he says. Take your boy, as soon as we come, and he sees that Benjamin is not with him, because Benjamin loves his father no less than his father loves Benjamin. The Benjamin wouldn't just stay behind. As soon as he sees that Benjamin is not there, Yamut Tekef, he'll die immediately. And that's what Rashi is getting at. As soon as he sees that Benjamin is not with us, it says he will die. Vames, and Vames also means that he is dead. Vamate. It could mean that Benjamin is dead. So he's saying to him, no, it doesn't make any difference who's dead. It doesn't make any difference if Benjamin is alive or if he's not alive. As soon as Yaakov sees we've come back and Benjamin is not there, and we're going to have to delay bringing Benjamin, no matter what reason is that Benjamin didn't come, he says our father is so weak and he's so broken from the fact that Yosef hasn't come back, and also now Benjamin is not coming back. As soon as he sees it, if he's not there, Yamut Tekev, he'll die immediately, without asking any questions. If so, it ends up that we brought our father into the grave. That's what it says, that it's why he repeats it over and over again, because bad things are going to happen not just to us, they're going to happen to others as well. Says Yehuda to Yosef, your servant, in other words, me, Yehuda is talking about himself, Aravatanar, I was a surety for Benjamin, for my father. And I said, if I don't bring him back, then I will be a sinner for the rest of my life. If you say, Lama nichnas the tagar, yotem mishar, why did I, if you want to, maybe you'll say, Yosef, why did I take responsibility more than all the other brothers? They were all outside. Said, because I will be attached. I mean, if you remember, it was Yehuda was the one that said, let's sell him. So therefore, I'm going to be knocked out of this world and of the world to come as well. That's why I'm the one that's responsible for this whole thing. Okay, Yosef, meanwhile, he hears all these claims. He hears Yehuda begging and pleading. Yehuda's not finished. please take me. Yehuda is saying to Yosef, take me instead of Benjamin. Evedlan, I'll be a servant. I'll be a really good servant. And let the brother go back. I'll be a good servant to you, Yosef. Yehuda is saying, I'm a very, very capable person. Let me be your servant, and let Yosef go. Let Benjamin go back to his father. Because how can I go back to my father? And the boy is not with me. Pen erebara, and then I will see. Asher yimtza et avi. I can't stand to see the bad that's going to occur to my father. This comes to say, the hodil ki yivchar liot eved laolam, that it's better to be a servant for the rest of my life, a slave for the rest of my life, than going back to my father without Benjamin. I can't bear to see the bad. This is the Ramban. I can't bear to see my father suffer anymore. Because my father will weep constantly, and he'll mourn for him all the time. Maybe he'll say, maybe my father will say, don't tell me any stories. You knew how to get away. The king of Egypt wanted to trap all of you, and you just were a better, how do you say, the escape artist than your brother. You knew how to escape from this, and Yehuda got your brother Benjamin. He got caught. So your father will blame me for the rest of my life. I can't bear to live a life like that. And this is what the Malbim says, that Yehuda is saying to Yosef, exchange me. You want to take someone prisoner? Take me prisoner. And you won't lose anything. I'll be in place of Benjamin. He's not Moshe Avodat Eved. Benjamin, he doesn't know how to be a good servant. And I'll be a good servant. In any case, I can't go back home because I'm going to see what's going to be to my father. So in other words, let me stay here. Yehuda is saying, let me stay here by you. Then everybody's going to benefit. If I go back, if you keep Benjamin by you, then everybody's going to lose. Benjamin, he's not a good servant. You're not going to get anything out of him. And I'm going to go back home. I'm going to see my father suffering. Then I'm going to suffer. Everybody's going to suffer. So let's be sensible, Yosef. I'll be the servant. I'll do a good job. And my father will be happy. What can we do? As soon as Yosef hears this, now we're going to jump to the next two. Yosef could not hold back. You're going to see there's an argument about this word yitapek. The call on nitzavim alav, to all those people that are standing around him. Vayikra, and he yelled out, Hotziu kol ish me'alai, everyone out of the palace. V'lo amad ishito, and there was nothing with him. B'yitvada Yosef elachav, when Yosef confessed to his brothers. What did he confess? There's a long Ramban over here. Actually, there's a long Kliyakar also. We'll see. We'll get to it. Okay, Yosef told everyone, leave. And he started to weep. And all the Egyptians heard. Everyone heard. Vayishma Beit Paro, and also all of the people in the house, the family, whatever, of Pharaoh, they all heard. Now no one knows what's going on. What is he crying for? What's Yosef weeping? What's he crying? What's going on? He says, Vayomer Yosef elechav. Yosef said to his brothers, Ani Yosef. I am Yosef. Ha'od avichai, is my father still alive? We learned the Sikha in the morning. Remember we learned that he was saying, how can it be that my father has been able to bear such pain for 22 years because it says that a dead person, that if you can mourn for him for 7 days, for 30 days, and then the pain goes away. But a person that everybody thinks he's dead, but in fact he's alive, Hashem made it that the pain never goes away. So my father and others has been mourning for me for 22 years. My father is still alive. And the brothers couldn't say anything. This is the last thing they expected. They never expected a thing like this. Right? They figured that they wwere finished. Now they were slaves. The worst that could possibly happen has happened. They are now trapped in the house of Egypt, and they can anything. The king can do anything he wants to them. Anything he wants. Suddenly, all of a sudden, it became even worse. Yosef reminded them two things: of their sin. You sold me into slavery, and not only that, it reminded them that they're in a worse situation than they thought. Now Yosef can take vengeance on them. Yosef has a good reason, a good motivation to really make them suffer now. So now they're really, if they thought maybe God would help them, I mean, they're the sons of Yaakov, maybe God would help them against this non-Jewish king. Right? The Jewish people were very few, and they had blessings. Yaakov had blessings. His father gave him blessings that God would protect him. All of his children. It was the continuation of Yaakov. And now Yosef reminded them of all their sins. Maybe they don't even have that anymore. It says they were just amazed. They were just startled. They couldn't do anything. Nivhal Lefanav, he said that the brothers were shaken in front of him. Why? Mipnei abusha, because suddenly they were so ashamed. Whoa, this is their sin. Here he is. Our sin that we did is sitting here right in front of us. Right? We tried to kill this man. He's sitting there. What's going to be now? He said, is my father still alive? Let's just do a little bit more of the plea, and then we'll. Plea says like this: even though that Yosef already said that Yehuda already said that my father is alive, like we can say from all the other words of Yehuda. Nevertheless, Yosef thought, Ula Yom Rokach, that he would say this, maybe, I'm sorry, Chashav, he thought, Yosef, Ulai Omrukein, maybe it could be that the reason that they're saying that their father is still old and this, maybe actually it could be that he's dead, right? Maybe the reason that Yehuda said that our father is old and you have to please have mercy on us, maybe in fact their father wasn't alive. Maybe he had already died. Why did Yehuda make a lie like this? Kadesh yachmu rachamav al zaken, so that Yosef will have mercy on this old man. V'lo yigrom lo mesan, they won't cause him to die. Ki nafsho k'shara b'nafsho, because his soul was attached to his soul. In other words, what's going on? Maybe it could be that these brothers thought that, listen, we'll tell him our father really died, but our father's really old, and come on, have mercy on our father and be a nice person. And so Yosef thought that maybe they were saying this in order just to arouse his mercy. Okay, and Shalom, therefore he asked them another time, is my father still alive? Ulavavam lokein yidmeh. But what did they think? How did they interpret this question? V'chashvu shelo yitkaven lishol imu chayalo. He wasn't asking if he was still alive or not. Ela shabo lahazkir avonam. What did Yosef say? I am Yosef, and is my father alive? He's coming to remind them of the sin. Al-Kain Omro ha'od avichai. Therefore, he said, is my father alive? What does it mean, my father? What's going on? Really, let's say their father did die. Yaakov was dead. Right? He wasn't. The fact is he was alive. Now we're saying, how did everybody interpret what everybody else said? Yosef said, maybe the reason Yehuda said our father is alive is in order that I should have mercy on him. Yehuda, meanwhile, right? Yehuda, meanwhile, he was lying. His father is not alive. Why did Yosef then ask, is my father still alive? Right? Because he wanted to impress on them their terrible sin. That really they killed their father. That's why he said, is my father alive? In other words, to say, Avivu, it's my father, it's not your father. I had mercy on him. You didn't have any mercy on his pain. You took his son, me, and you wanted to kill me. It's like he's not our father, like he was your next door neighbor or something that you hate. Therefore, they got scared. Okay, that's another interpretation. So we have two interpretations. Why did Yosef say, is my father still alive, despite the fact that Yehuda had mentioned so many times that their father was still alive? Because Yosef said, maybe Yehuda is lying. He's just saying this to arouse mercy. And then there's another deeper reason that Yosef really thought that his father was dead, and he asked again, is my father alive? And if it was my father, if it was up to me, he would be alive. But not your father. You were willing to cause him such pain that he died. Another reason is that he said, Ani Yosef, I am Yosef. Now, what did he say over here? Look, he said to his brothers, Ani Yosef, I am Yosef. But he doesn't say, I am Yosef, your brother. Ani Yosef achichem. I am Yosef, your brother. He said, I am Yosef. Right? Maybe it could be that it's the Yosef Schwartz, Yosef, and so another Yosef. It has to be this Yosef. Maybe there's some other Yosef. My name also happens to be Yosef. Why didn't he Yosef should have said, I am Yosef, your brother. Why didn't he say that? He said, because by saying I'm Yosef, and he didn't say, I am your brother, therefore they got scared. And fear grasped them. Ki amru pen yevakesh. No, he didn't say, I'm Yosef, your brother. Maybe he's declaring that I'm not your brother anymore. Now he's going to be our enemy, and he's going to take revenge on us. You see at that small, and he's removed himself from brotherhood. Who else did a thing like that? Like they did. Kashay Sohemo, that they took themselves from the brothers, from being brothers. Like Rashi explains on the Nasum, he said that they traveled away from being brothers. Therefore, he said to them the second time, he said, Ani Yosef achichem, I am Yosef, your brother, that you sold me in Egypt. Even though they should have at least sold me into another nation, I'll just say this outside. Said, you could have sold me to another nation, that they're not so licentious. Okay, I want to tell you what the plea is going to say now. He says like this: the Egyptians are known as they are a nation of the most licentious people in the world. Right? They're the most, how do you want to call it, illicit and moralless people as far as sexual things go in the world. They're the worst. So he said, listen, Yosef said, you sold me to the worst people in the world, right? As it is, I'm a handsome sort of a guy. Now you're going to send me down to this terrible place. And that's exactly what happened. What happened? There's Shtufizima. Then that was the thing with Potiphar's wife. Potiphar's wife, she saw Yosef working in the household. Potiphar's wife, Yosef, because they sold him to Potiphar. Right? They sold him to the Midian, and the Midian sold him to Potiphar. So he's in Potiphar's house. Meanwhile, everybody all of a sudden they get aroused sexually because of Yosef. Even Potiphar. It says that God castrated him. His name became Potiphara afterwards. Said everybody. So Potiphar's wife, also the same thing. She's making all these tricks in order to get Yosef to be with her. And Yosef, kavashti et yetzer. Yosef, he had every reason in the world just to go out, just to carry on, just to go through with it. First of all, he was a stranger in a strange land. If he had relations with this lady, so that she would do him all sorts of favors and get him all. And it ended up that by resisting her, so that got her all angry. And because of that, he got thrown into jail for 12 years, Egyptian jail for 12 years. I once talked to somebody, a long story. Anyway, I talked to somebody that was sat in Egyptian jail. And he sat in an Egyptian jail. He was caught by the Egyptians, and he sat there for a couple of years. a couple of years, whatever it was. Finally, they let him out with an exchange or something. Exchange. A true story. He said it was just incredibly cruel and terrible there, and just the worst possible conditions that there can possibly be. A long, very strange story that this person told. It's true. I checked the story out. It was true. Egyptian jail, the worst thing. Yosef is 12 years in Egyptian jail, the worst, lowest people in the world. But he said that the reason that Yosef was successful was because he overpowered his own Yetzer Hora, his own, I say, his evil desires. Like it says in the Torah, B'teshev Eitan Kashto, Misham Ro Even Yisrael. Because Yosef was able to control himself in such a situation and be faithful to Hashem and to his father, and like it says, Kol Abo Al anyone who has relations with a married woman, in the end, he's going to come to poverty, etc. So therefore, Yosef, it was a good thing. That's what he wants to say. It was a good thing. Yosef said, it was a good thing you sent and sold me. In the end, it came out to be a good thing you sold me by such terrible people with no morals whatsoever. Why? So that I could stand this terrible test. And because of that, I was the one that got entrusted to save the whole world in the years of famine. That's essentially what he says. Okay, let's just do a little bit more over here because this is very deep. I really wanted to start this earlier, but here. What's going on? Yosef is standing in front of his brothers and he says, I'm Yosef. Remember what you did to me? And all the brothers go berserk. Wow, what's going to be? They got, like it says, Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah, Va'ilanu miyom hadin, woe to us in the day of judgment. Va'ilanu liyom hatochacha, woe to us the day of reproof. After a person dies, there's all the bad things that he did in his life, they're popped up in front of him and he has to stand court judgment. Ma Yosef, just like Yosef, that he said to his brothers, I am Yosef. And they were not able to answer him. And Yosef was only temporary, right? He was a king. Same thing, when God stands us to be judged, this is a little bit sort of musudik, but it's when God stands us to be judged. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah says that. How much more so? Like it says, what are you going to do in the day when you are judged? The brothers thought that Yosef was going to mention their sins, like we explained. If so, what's going to be to us when God really does mention our sins? And God is going to say to everybody, look what you did. Okay, this is not the way of Chabad, but it's very interesting. Very interesting. The way of Chabad is just think about good things and forget about, leave the judgments up to God, right? Only do good things, that's all. Think about how to do good, how to improve people. But still, nevertheless, every person is a human being, and every person is put into tests, difficulties, that all of a sudden a person is put into a situation where he can do some sort of a sin, get angry, get lust. But that's Rabbi Elazar said, look out, therefore, the Torah tells us the story about all the brothers, they all got scared. Why? In order that they should think, that we should think, we'll read the story and we'll take it to our heart. Charadat Yom Hadin, the scariness, the awesomeness of the day of judgment, and we'll learn a kol v'chomer from the brothers of Yosef. Now, Yosef was a big tzaddik. It says that's why his brothers hated him, because he was some sort of a weird tzaddik, and they couldn't figure out how a person could be so holy as Yosef. And they figured maybe it's not holiness, maybe it's something else, because they thought they were the ultimate level of holiness. And because Yosef was different from them, they figured he must be not holy. They couldn't figure out anything else. Now, Yosef, with all of his holiness, nevertheless, says that when he was in the house of Potiphar, and Potiphar's wife started to make advances to him, according to one opinion, Rashi even brings it down, that Yosef was willing to participate, but it says that the vision of his father appeared in front of him. In other words, for a person to hold himself back from doing what he really wants to, pleasurable things, especially in sexual things, as it takes certain superhuman powers to do. but we have those powers, but we have to decide to link to them, because it's a terrible, awesome test. And everyone is put into this test. You can bet the biggest Hasidim, Rabbi Mendel Futterfass once told me that he had a friend, a big Hasid or whatever, and that there was a certain song that he sang. And he just remembered the words to the song, and that's what saved him from doing a sin, an actual sin of Paul Mamish. The actual sin. So, okay, that's what we can learn from this. If Yosef's brothers were so stupefied and totally knocked out and trembling and fearful because Yosef they thought Yosef was going to remind them of their sins, how much more so that we should use this trick when necessary, every trick we can, not to do sins. There's going to be a day of judgment. Okay. Let us learn a Mishnah.